Sounds great. Well, so first off, something that you were, I think, touching upon earlier, and correct me if I misunderstood, but I think on the topic of Nightmare Dungeons, it sounds like every season there's going to be a rotation of 30 dungeons that can be turned into the Nightmare Dungeons. Is that right?
So we want to make sure that we've got a subset of the dungeons we have in the overall game. There's over 115 or so like side dungeons available in the baseline Diablo 4 experience. We want to take a subset of those each season. Exact number we're working on. We're going to think about that and think about it. But a number of those we rotate every season to make sure that we are highlighting different kinds of objectives, different sorts of layouts, different monster families, just different experiences. And we also don't want players to feel that they're going to have this where they have to be thinking about all 115 different dungeons every season, every time, with regard to this system in particular. So that is the idea. We do want to rotate through these from season to season while we're looking to introduce other ideas.
Cool. Okay. I got a question here from, I'm not going to butcher Twitch names, guys. I do this every stream.
From a Twitch user.
From a Twitch user in chat. Do you have any plans to keep interest for people who don't plan to play in seasons?
Good question.
So we are going to be making on a regular basis part of our live updates. We're not quite ready to talk about like all of our seasonal plans and all of our post-launch plans yet, but I will say this, that we're going to be having a lot of like really rich and interesting content updates for our seasonal players, but we're still be making balance changes and adding new legendary items and like unique items and things of that nature for players who are playing in the Eternal Realm, the place where you will be able to never have to worry about like a character reset or do any of those things. There will always be new infusions of some game content at that level to players going in that space.
Similar to Path of Exile. After you finish the ladder, you're going to be thrown into standard with the rest of the people. And after a couple of seasons, it's just going to become a pile of trash with a lot of loot, a lot of players, a lot of things, and everything's going to become worthless besides the end game top perfect gear. So I don't know. I don't believe that this answers the question. I think this is kind of left out for us to just raise it once again so that we could play Diablo not using ladders.
But for the richest experience in the post-launch environment, I highly recommend checking out Seasons because we're doing some really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's for sure. We will. Thank you so much.
All right. So one thing that I noticed in the December press beta to the public beta was that changes were made to the skill tree. There were like new passive skills, there were new paths made amongst the passive nodes. So I'm wondering, was the skill tree designed in such a way that you can, over the course of seasons or expansions, add new passive or active skills?
Yes. So the skill tree really that we have for Diablo 4 at launch really is just the beginning for these classes. We are going to be looking for new opportunities to create more playstyles within each of the classes. We'll be adding new passives, potentially new skills in the future. These are things that we would like to do. It is likely that these kinds of updates, particularly of like new passives, like new nodes and new things in the skill tree, are more likely to happen as part of our our future larger like expansion size updates, rather than things that might be happening as part of seasons. We have lots of interesting customization options we're going to be adding as part of seasons, but they might not touch the skill tree specifically.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Should I be happy or sad about this? Because one of the things I should be excited is the change of the game every sort of season. And yeah, why they're not changing the skills? Probably they wouldn't have so much time to adjust, but hey, you need to take risks, right? Come on.
We've been seeing this question a lot. I've been seeing it in chat as well, and there's, I think, some confusion in regards to altars of Lilith, how those will work in between seasons, or will those reset? Like, how does that specifically work?
Sure.
Okay.
So Altars of Lilith are one of the features that players can go and collect basically in the overworld that we're going to contribute to their renown total within each of the zones.
The chore.
Well, and give permanent character power as well.
I'm going to
Character, not account-wide.
get there.
Okay.
So there's two purposes really that the Altars of Lilith have. They have this larger collectible feature where you want to kind of go get all of them for the stat points that you just called out, and then they also provide the renown. So renown is reset on a seasonal basis. So when you start a new character, your renown score goes back down to 0. You'll have to go and finish side dungeons, go do side quests, go find Altars of Lilith, go do these things in order to kind of get that that renown back up to unlock all of those benefits. Now, you don't need to go do all of that content in a zone to max out your renown bar. There's actually way more activities that grant renown than you actually need to complete in order to finish going through and filling up all of the renown and getting all 5 tiers of the rewards.
Okay, that's
when it comes to the stat gains, so basically, to your point that you're just speaking about, Altars of Lilith also have another purpose. And that when you find one, they give you a stat boost that's supposed to apply to your character and all characters in that realm. The way that's going to work is that once you've collected that stat boost from a specific Altar of Lilith, that stat effect is going to propagate out to other characters of that game type. So basically, Hardcore is going to have its own progression for this, where it's like if you were playing a Hardcore character at launch and you go and you do all these things, those stat boosts you collect will propagate to your Hardcore characters you would make in the seasonal realm. And the same is true for players who are playing in the normal realm and playing the normal game mode. All the stat boosts they're unlocking via the Altars of Lilith will also unlock for their seasonal characters in the future, such that players don't need to go and collect every Altar of Lilith with every new season, but you do want to get some of them. They do still grant experience, and they do give you some bonus towards your boost towards your renown. But there's not the sense that you need to go and like do every single one of them every single time. We want that to be a really fun experience for players to engage with, particularly while they're exploring Sanctuary for the first couple times at most.
It's actually
great. And have that bit of fun. Otherwise, players can choose to engage with them or ignore them as they go into their seasonal playthroughs in the future.
You can't ignore them. They give you status boost. You can't ignore it. It's the chore. But why they're making a chore? It's sad. It shouldn't be like this. It should be included into quests. Such chore it shouldn't be included in the game. It's wrong. It's beautiful, but it should only give XP. Stat increase should only come from quests.
Right. So characters, you will.
As I believe this only prolongs your playtime in the game, but it expands. I mean, your playtime in the game, but it prolongs your having some sort of stuff that you plan to do in actual game. As eventually you still need to go on, collect the statues, and then play the game. I don't know.
If you unlock a permanent stat boost in Season 1, that will persist into Season 2.
That's correct.
That's awesome. Still a chore.
All right. With regards to item farming, we touched upon how Helltide, you can target farm specific slots. Is there any other kind of item types where either you can only get this item in this zone, this location, or is there some greater propensity for some items to drop off certain monsters, anything like that?
So we have a number of different creatures in the game that have a chance to drop particular things. World bosses, for example, have a really, really good chance to drop Scattered Prism, which is the crafting material you need in order to add sockets to items in the game. And then there are certain content types that have the chance to grant certain materials, like Fiend Rose, for example, really only shows up in Helltide areas. And the only way to raise the level of your glyph is by going through and doing Nightmare dungeons.
Yeah.
When it comes to item farming, we also, and I've talked a little bit about this in the past, but I think it's good to remind people, and also just to continue talking about it, right? Because it's a new mechanic. And that is that when you're fighting creatures of a certain monster family, like zombies or skeletons for their respective families, those monsters have a higher chance to drop certain kinds of items. It's actually a bonus chance to drop certain item types kind of happening in the background. So it's not like if an item, like for example, skeletons have a chance to drop crossbows, irrespective of your class. So you play
Okay.
Barbarian, which can't use crossbows, is one of its weapon types, and you could be killing all these skeletons, and you might just get a crossbow drop as a result of that. That's tradable with rogues. You know, there's other things you can do with that, but that's not taking a roll from the skeleton. It could drop everything else in addition to that crossbow. It's like an extra bonus thing that that skeleton can drop.
That's nice.
Every monster family has a few different things they drop this way. So as players are going through the experience, and particularly while they're leveling up in the campaign, they'll occasionally start saying like, "Oh, I'm getting like a lot of like rings from this, or I'm getting a lot of boots from this, or I'm getting a lot," and they'll realize that over time, over the course of time, that these are being dropped based on the monster families they're engaging with. So as players discover more of this, they continue to fight more monsters and start mapping some of these things out, they will uncover the right areas or the best areas potentially to farm for certain kinds of things, and that includes like unique items as well. So if you're looking for a unique crossbow, maybe it behooves you to try to fight a lot of skeletons because you know they have a chance to drop crossbows in addition to other things. So these are the sorts of things that, like, as you're diving deeper into like the hunting gameplay, the item hunting gameplay, these are things to look at. That's not the end. There's a lot more we're going to be doing as the game continues to mature and as we're going into like our post-launch period.
I like the term "game goes mature."
But we'll talk about that when the time's right.
Fair enough.
I believe I'm just gonna call it, this Q&A turns into mature Diablo 4 experience. This is gonna be the name of the video.
This one is kind of tied to some of the server slam stuff that we just announced, which is, will there be any additional changes made to the game after the server slam weekend, like what was done during the beta?
No, we announced that the game has gone gold. The server slam you're testing a version of the game that is very close to the launch version of the game. That's why it's so effective as a server slam. Now,
okay.
of course, as a live service game, we're going to be continuing to take feedback exactly like you saw during the beta, after the game is launched, and making changes and making improvements based on.
I wish to believe this.
All right, overlay map versus mini-map. Mini-map is a little map in the top right corner. Overlay is what we had in the past in D2, where you have this semi-transparency of the large-scale map over your actual gameplay. D4 does not have an overlay map. A lot of people are asking for it. What's the reason for no overlay?
Yeah. Give us the overlay. Every game has it.
So when you're...
I even noticed that when you open up the map, you have even slight delay, and it takes additional resources. Just have two options to pick. If you can't deliver, just say that you can't deliver right now, but you will look into it and you will deliver later on. But as from the feedback that I received, is they refused. Not that they said that they wouldn't, they just straight up refused. So I'm very curious what they're about to say about this.
Playing through an action RPG and you're playing through that core loop, you're basically switching between two modes of behavior, right? You're killing monsters or you're navigating. And you're switching back and forth between those really quickly. And so it can be helpful to have that be as fast as possible so that you can I just killed those monsters. Okay, where am I going to go? Is there an objective to the left or right? Right. And so the overlay map is very effective at doing that. In fact, it's so effective that it's up there's no reason to ever close it. And so there are a lot of solutions that we've seen different games do in terms of like trying to mitigate sort of its effects on combat. In terms of fading areas around the player or
why they're not giving a player choice. That's, I can tell you straight away. They want to lock you in the game as much as you want. We know Diablo 4 is an awesome game and it will feature an amazing experience. I know myself that for a fact. Just the thing that they're not giving us a choice of just if you're running the same dungeon like 5 or 6 100 times over and over again, and only thing that's changing is just where your part of quest gonna end up. The thing is that you're still gonna be opening up the map, and after you've seen all of the animations, all of the game styles and everything in the game, you want to know exactly where to run. I believe that Blizzard is seeing like a new player experience who will be playing the game for the first time the very first 20 hours. But the fact that majority of player base will be enjoying the game hundreds or thousands of hours after the game will be released, this issue needs to be addressed, it needs to be fixed. Maybe this is some sort of a thing that can be achieved or implemented into the game later on, but they're mistreating this incorrectly. They're confusing game beauty and atmosphere with the end result and how player experience should be driven. And it should be driven by player being immersed into the game, by having full experience and their expectations met. And if you want to go there, kill monsters, do a quick speed run, you want to know where to navigate exactly, not be like in Skyrim games or in any other games where you just don't have a map, or a map is just straight up limiting your actions. It's just, why?
things like that. What we're trying
and the fact that there will not be any sort of a back discussion about this unless there's going to be some sort of petition is just crazy. I believe that there's going to be no change because it will sound like a firm explanation of why it will not happen, but I believe they're absolutely utterly wrong, and it should be implemented into the game.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to keep the combat and navigation spaces as clean as possible by separating them a little bit more. And so that's why you see the mini map, you see the pin system on the map, You see in certain cases.
I believe if he would be the one who would be playing Diablo 4 for a couple of years and would be familiar with the same bosses, same layout, wouldn't you think that he would be keen to have some sort of navigation instead of just standing in one place, pressing M button, and then looking at the map? No, he wants to see it right away.
Edge of screen indicators on the minimap.
I predict that this is going to be fixed. It doesn't seem like an enhancement, it seems like a temporary delusion of the team that they're inventing something. No, the overlay minimap was created for the very same reason. Not for the fact that players stop immersing into the game, it was created for the fact so that player would feel control of the gameplay and would understand where he needs to go. Because it's not that the player would be constantly on the minimap and just looking at it because the game is difficult. It's the fact that you want to have fun in a game by allowing you to express yourself, not by limiting you in the game.
We want to add more of those kinds of things, but ultimately, our goal is to make sure that players, when they're going back and forth between combat mode and navigation mode, that they have the tools that they need to do it efficiently and they don't feel like it's a huge hassle. So we're going to be continuing to look at this feedback.
As long as everyone says that we want you to address it, they will address it, but it may be that it's even on their bucket list to make it as a to-do item, but it requires rework, it requires testing, and of course, if you would be sitting in their shoes, you don't really want to do development once again, as the game has already been completed, and say that, hey guys, let's just prolong launch because you want to have a minimap. No, that's crazy. They have their point, we have ours.
For launch, you won't have an overlay map. We're trying to make that experience as smooth as possible. But we're going to continue to listen to player feedback on this point.
All right.
Rhykker he can't just say anything. He got paid to participate in this interview and ask the questions that was collected for him, and he had the ability to pick from a list. Hey Rhykker, what kind of questions you wish that we would answer? He picked like 10 questions or so, and they're just answering. They have answers to all of the questions, but Rhykker, as the representative of the community, he's awesome, by the way. He asked the questions. Blizzard dev team give the response, and that's it. There's no back and forth. There's no discussion. There's no dialogue. They just ask a question. They have a voiced response. That's it. I don't know. It really doesn't scratch the itch that I'm looking for.
We have a question saying, are all dungeons going to be single floor iterations with halls like traversing, or are we going to get like maybe multi-level dungeons or anything that brings like elevation or depth and so forth into those?
It's interesting that one of the things that we did in Diablo 4 that's really cool is that you don't have to load between dungeon floors. An interesting effect of that is that you might not always notice when you're going down a floor into a lower floor. There is there are staircases and there are certain moments where that shows up, and there's UI that appears that shows up. But in many cases, our dungeons do have multiple floors, and because it's so seamless, you don't always notice. Now, in terms of when you think back to Diablo 1 and adventuring down through the cathedral, and it's this very deep dungeon, our dungeon tech can certainly do that too, and that's certainly something that could be a cool option for the future.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I agree. Why do you want to have like a separate map as you already entered in the zone and you're already exploring? It's a good question, Taz, and I don't know. It was kind of creative question to create, and kind of a creative answer that was given.
Right. With regards to PvP, is there any kind of instancing to separate out solo players versus groups, or are we going to see like 4-man squads ganking lonely players?
Nice.
Yeah, you will see 4-man squads ganking lonely players. I want to make sure I'm really clear about this. The fields of hatred that we have in Diablo 4 are not a place for honor. They're a place for slaughter. So if you go into those spaces, you need to be mindful that you are entering a chaotic realm of danger and threat. That's the fantasy. That's what we're trying to do.
Amazing.
Now, players who go into these spaces might also be fortunate and find that there's a number of other players that are trying to peacefully farm up, in various resources while they're fighting there, and not actually be interested in engaging in PvP immediately. That also is a situation you might occasionally find yourself in. Maybe you decide that you want to take advantage of them, and you show up and decide that you want to go and gank those players and take their things. Greed gets the best of us all at some point in time. But I want to make it really clear that there are things in place in terms of how we bucket players by level and things like that to ensure that you're not always going up against like really, really high level players.
Why I need to say this? Why? Just leave the zone alone.
Level.
Have some sort of limit, separation of how many players are entering the zone, and that's it. Why I need to divide players into levels? Why I need to divide players by item levels? And skills and later on achievements that they have unlocked. It misses the purpose of ganking. Make it simple, make it easy. Everyone can enter the zone. The zone's gonna be huge. There is a player limit, and that's it. So it's one of the fun things for you, so we could farm in ARPG games, is that you can out-farm someone, you go to the zone, and you can kill other players in 1 or 2 hits. That's one of the best feelings you can get when you're in PvP. And you don't always want to join PvP, like it happens, I believe, in World of Warcraft, where everything is so balanced, and in order for you, so you could kill a mage, if you're a rogue, in reality, backstab and the mage is dead. In World of Warcraft, sorry, WoW fans, but it's insanely unrealistic, so that you need to constantly use skills on a mage, and it can't die for 2 minutes. Or, okay, use the right combo, and he just will die after like 20 seconds? But what's wrong? It's so wrong. It shouldn't be like that. It should be just go in, kill there. Use weaknesses, or be stronger than anyone else and just bash and win in any sort of situation. That's the reason why you have gear and item level progression, so that you could meet lower level people, lower gear, item score people, and just gank them. And that's actually the fun of the game. Well, for me it is, and I believe for a lot of you as well, right?
No, but in terms of like, I'm walking into space, is there any guarantee that there aren't 3 people somewhere roaming around?
Sorry, I just went into mind. I just remembered the fact that I remember back in the day when I was playing different games in the groups of people, groups of friends, and when we are playing as a pack, we all have equal gear, equal items, and if we are fighting someone, we know that our group is equalized. So I was always eager to farm something more and have a little bit of that 1% advantage, so that when I would join PvP, so I could be competitive, stronger, or have a little bit more defense or more HP, so I could stand a little longer and fight just a little bit longer. But having this kind of removed kind of opens up a window, so that you could have some sort of twinks in the game, like level 30 PvP gear, and you no longer level up. So what's happening?
This area looking to gank lonely people like me. The answer is there is no mechanic in place to prevent that from occurring, so you need to be mindful of that when you're
But it's completely RNG, like with limits. I
walking
don't know.
around here. Go in there with friends, or walk in and be prepared to occasionally die. Especially when you immediately walk into a field of hatred. If you were to immediately get killed by other players, there's actually no real penalty for you in that case. That you haven't started to acquire any of the PvP resources in that zone yet anyway. So they have nothing to gain from killing, and you have nothing to lose as a result of that death. So, yeah.
What about Harcore? If you die there, would you die forever?
Things to experiment with, but go in with the right set of expectations.
But there is some pseudo matchmaking
Overall, it's very good.
to stop like level 100 players ganking level 25 players.
That's correct. There is some bucketing in place to make sure that doesn't occur.
It's just painful to hear this. You can't say ganking and PvP in the same sentence. It's just straight up like balancing. Such thing never existed in Diablo 2 and shouldn't exist in any of the other games. Lineage is not doing that. There's why you need to balance everything. Leave weak classes, weak, strong classes strong. If you want to make your strong class stronger, or if you want to be stronger and competitive, level up. Just as simple as that. Be like everyone else. Invest your time, get rewarded. Fight your way up. Why you need to be in some sort of a balance sheet? Come on. Come on.
I would add too that the fields of hatred are fairly large areas.
Yes.
So you're not. There are some tools to avoid the same group of players repeatedly killing you. There are also two fields of hatred, so you can move between fields of hatred. And there are things like elixirs that can allow you to be more evasive or get away from situations where you feel like you're at a disadvantage. There are also, when you think about the fields of hatred mechanic, you're collecting these shards of hatred and refining them so that you can turn them in for rewards. The locations that you can do that, there are several locations, typically active at a time. So you can sort of do some strategizing about where.
Rogue and using shadows gonna be so strong.
There might be enemy players and where it might be safe.
That's right. When an altar is being used to purify those shards of hatred into red dust, you'll actually see a notification on your map letting you know where that's actually occurring. So if you see that there's a lot of activity in the northwestern part of the zone, maybe that's a great time to sneak over to the southeastern side and try to quietly and quickly cleanse some red dust of your own. Because once it's cleansed, you can't lose it. You don't drop it.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's nice.
We have a lot of
This PvP zone for me honestly sounds amazing. I can't wait to try it out. Level scaling sucks, as always, as I did video previously, but man, this so far sounds amazing.
questions related to like seasonal stuff and battle pass stuff. I just want to note that we actually are our next live stream. In
Next live stream.
in May, in early May, soon TM, will be actually focusing a little bit on our seasonal structure as well as battle pass and so forth. So we're actually going to leave those comments specifically for that. I keep looking down at the monitor and the people in production behind me keep going, Adam, what's wrong with you? That's just me. In regards to other quick questions that we do have.
It seems like a cool dude, right? Optimistic, poised, eager to tell us more. Not as close as other two.
I'm going to just lightning off a few questions that have been coming up. These are kind of related, I would say.
Sorry, 3. Rhykker is not telling us anything too.
But, well, one is a co-op on PC. Have we looked at doing something like that? And then separately, mouse and keyboard on console. Is that something that we've also looked into?
No couch co-op on PC, no mouse and keyboard on console.
There you go. Mainly because, as you guys know, PC, like the account structure on Battle.net and having 2 accounts at the same time on one PC is a little difficult. And then on console, right now it's just controller play, and
Also, you can see just simply the layout is absolutely separate. So you would need to have a separate client downloaded. So I believe it's a very good question to ask, but yeah, it should be easy to fix it. There's so many games that just change layout by simply you changing out the output of your controls. Final Fantasy is doing that, and it's such an old game. If old games could do that, new games could do that as well. It's just a matter of need for this change. If need exists, if it arises, I believe that developer is gonna do the necessary and implement it. Just don't forget about it.
as we get past launch and so forth, we'll look at more into feedback and everything from that end.
Yeah.
I guess last question from me. With regards to the crafting system, can we expect that to be something that is built up to be more robust over time with regards to either seasons or, again, expansions?
Oh, yes. So Diablo 4 is a game
I
about
like
collecting,
that.
killing monsters, collecting loot, screwing around with that loot to do fun things and make it get more performance out of it, modifying those things, looking for the right
Nice.
ethics. Yeah, we're going to absolutely continue to be like just changing some of the crafting options, modifying them, providing new options that don't exist right now, building upon things we already have in place. You can expect to see a lot of things. Like Diablo 4 is a live service because it's a rich bed of opportunities to continue to like refine, change, update, and modify the systems we have in place right now. So yeah, you'll definitely see more crafting features over the course of time.
Nice.
Awesome. Last few small questions. People have been asked about ray tracing because we mentioned the NVIDIA DLSS 3 will be coming in. The Service Lamp ray tracing is coming after launch. It's something that we had talked about earlier. Let's see.
So that means that just part of the settings that we have available for us to select is just not fully functional, even though we have like tabs enabled. Okay.
This is an interesting question. If you're on your mount, can you actually pick up crafting materials and stuff like that while you're on your mount in the overworld?
There are a number of simple actions you can perform when you're on your mount. I believe right now you can pick up herbs when you're mounted. Yes.
Cool.
Nice.
I'm trying to see if we have. The chat's moving incredibly fast. A lot of people are talking about WASD movement right now. We don't have any plans for incorporating that. It's something that we may look into post-launch or whatnot from our end. Cool. I think we got a decent amount of questions in. Talked about this, the beta learnings, and of course all the information about Endgame
And the Server Slam.
and the Server Slam.
Ashiva's Server Slam.
Yeah.
Yeah. On you mentioned WASD movement, so no, WASD movement will not be in the game at launch, but in the Server Slam, do check out the additional control customization options that we added.
Yes.
They are referenced on the blog, and we want to
Cool.
continue to add more ways to customize the control scheme in the way that you're thinking of. So something that we're thinking about for the future.
Exactly. So thank you guys again, and thank you, Rhykker, for joining us this week. I know you've had a opportunity to play through the game quite a lot. We've
Lucky Rhykker.
stuck him in a room. He's really just played the game a ton this week. But we really appreciate everyone tuning in for the Diablo 4 developer update live stream. Again, our next live stream will be sometime in May, early May, and we'll be talking a little bit about our season structure as well as our battle pass.
Nice.
And a few other things that we did want to call out on in terms of
Tell us.
Diablo 3. We have season 28 currently going on right now. It's an awesome season. Highly recommend checking
Check it out. Yeah, check it out.
if you haven't. And then, of course, with Diablo Immortal, they just came out with a big update about a week or two ago that added a new PvP system into the game. So make sure to check that out if you haven't as well. For Diablo 2, we do want to announce one quick thing as well, which is the Diablo 2 Season 4 Diablo 2 Season 4 will actually begin on May 4th. So we did want to get that out so people can plan their calendars, because it's always been a fun, exciting time within D2R for people to do the ladder race going as they kind of get prepped for it, take time off, call off from work. We'll give you a doctor's note. It's perfect. So, but yes, thank you guys again for tuning in to the Diablo 4 developer update live stream. And we really appreciate you guys and appreciate the feedback. And thank you again, Rhykker.
Thank you so much for having
joining
me.
us.
Yeah, it's cool to have you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice,
Any parting
nice,
words?
nice. That's about it. That's from me. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one.